Welcome to the Wisdom Words Podcast with Pastors Dale and Joel Evrist. This podcast draws wisdom from the Word to engage the questions of today.
Welcome, everybody. For those who are new with us, my name is Joel, and I'm here with my dad, Pastor Dale, also known as PD. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, everybody. Thanks for being with us today.
Welcome to episode 12. We're in a series about healthy living as a Christian. We're covering topics like physical health, nutrition, rest and recovery, and finding community and partnership in your pursuit of living healthy. We're currently in a world with thousands of diets, doctors, influencers, athletes, books, podcasts, pills, potions, training protocols, and most of all, opinions. Our hope is that these episodes will cut through some of the unhelpful noise to give you some basic biblical principles for healthy living as a Christian, as well as giving you some stories and examples that we hope will inspire you. Make sure to listen to our first episode in the series on a biblical framework for treating health as stewardship. As we talked about in our last episode, this episode is going to be about a framework for healthy living. And we're going to introduce 4 pillars of healthy living. These aren't the only pillars in the world that you can use. This is just a way to think about how to steward your health in any season of your life. Those 4 pillars are, number 1, move well. Number 2, eat well. Number 3, recover well. And number 4, partner well. Now, these 4 pillars will look different in different ages and stages of life. So what PD and I are going to do today is we're just going to move through these 4 pillars, talk about some things that have worked for us, as well as some things that when we hear them, they kind of raise flags for us and make us question the legitimacy of them or how helpful or sustainable they may be. And just remember that these episodes are not meant to be comprehensive and exhaustive when it comes to all the elements of exercise and nutrition and recovery. As many of our listeners know, there are literally dozens and dozens of podcasts out there that are 3, 4, 5-hour episodes on how to increase your grip strength or get a better GI tract health in your life, etc. There's so much stuff out there. What we're trying to do is give you some basic principles that inspire you to get started. The least you need to know to get started is the most you need to know to get started. And maybe it inspires you to go back to some things you've given up on in the past. Maybe it inspires you to try something new. Maybe it inspires you to pick up the phone and get some help. In any case, our hope is that this inspires you to steward the health that God has given you for His glory and the people in your life. All right, let's start with this first pillar of move well. Dad, what are some things that have worked for you over the years when it comes to movement?
Yeah, well, I have been active in some kind of sporting activity from the time that I was a kid, and spent many hours with my brothers and with friends playing all kinds of sports, not just organized sports, but we would just for hours, we would play all kinds of games together that related to baseball and football and just anything we could do to move. And over the years, I played lots of team sports, even as an adult. Lots of church softball and basketball, and then played all kinds of racket sports, tennis, racquetball, and now I'm really enjoying a pickleball, a paddle sport, and what I've sought to do is to cooperate with the realities of aging. So I played pickup basketball until I was about 60 years old. And then I just felt like the Lord said, okay, that's enough of that. You've been injury free. That was a good run. This is no longer a good idea. And so I just found myself playing like pickleball is one of those things that's great. Golf is another thing that's a really good sport. But anything that I can do that keeps me moving. Done lots of walking, biking, and the nature of my job is that it requires me to spend a lot of time in a stationary position, either in appointments, meetings, writing, whatever. And so making myself walk, making myself stand and stretch as often as possible. If you don't take care, like I kind of view my body as an older antique car, it just takes more maintenance. So I've just done a lot of things, and I like variety, but I have found consistency is what is most critical.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot of similar things. I think that whatever you're going to stick with, that's the most effective training protocol. Whatever you're going to be most consistent in, and it's really important to find things that you enjoy. Now, you don't have to enjoy all of it. We all have parts of our job. We all have parts of our roles with our families, our various responsibilities that aren't our favorite things to do, but we learn to love them for what they produce. Well, it's similar with fitness. Try and find things that you enjoy doing, and try and find things that, while they might not be your favorite thing to do, you love what they produce, and you're willing to engage them. So for me, when I was younger, it was playing sports. As I became an adult and I just had so much more work to do, I didn't have time to play team sports. I know that a lot of people love doing pickup leagues, pickup basketball leagues, pickup soccer leagues, or recreational adult soccer leagues and flag football and stuff like that. For me, I think the most consistent thing that has helped me with my physical health for the last 20 years of being an adult has been resistance training. For a long time, I didn't have the budget for a gym membership. So I did stuff at home. I got a pull-up bar that I could hang in the doorway. I got ways that I could do, air squats and lunges and push-ups and pull-ups. And that's what I did. Whatever I could do and whatever I could afford time-wise and money-wise, I always tried to have some kind of resistance training. Another thing that has really helped me over the years, and PD mentioned this as well, is just doing as much walking as possible. As many phone calls as I can be standing and walking as opposed to sitting. I want to try and do that. As many meetings as I can do walking, which I know is a little odd maybe for some of our listeners. How do you do a meeting and walk? Well, maybe there's a way you could have a quick lunch and meet a coworker for a meeting you guys already needed to have at a local mall or park, weather permitting, and just go for a walk and talk as opposed to sitting down. So walking as much as possible, standing when I don't need to sit. If it's appropriate for me to stand, I'd rather stand than sit. If it's appropriate for me to walk, I'd rather walk than stand. And then another thing that's helped me over the years is just kind of your basic zone 2 moderate cardio. I do some high intensity things as well, but zone 2 moderate cardio, that's something like getting on the stair machine. How do you know you're in zone 2? Again, there's like 60,000 podcasts out there you could listen to, but a good rule of thumb is you can have a winded conversation, but you can't sing a song. That's kind of how you know you're in that zone 2 area. So whether that's walking on the treadmill in an incline position, getting on the Stairmaster, doing a rower, doing a ski erg, doing some moderate jogging, things like that. Whatever feels good to you and you enjoy, you can listen to a podcast or watch a movie or talk on the phone or whatever. Those kinds of things have helped me over the years. PD, when it comes to moving well over the years, what have been some things that kind of raise either yellow flags for you when you hear them or red flags for you when you hear certain things being marketed or certain things being marketed to people as oh, this is the thing you got to do?
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with quick fixes, with it's kind of what I call variety versus veracity. Variety is great, but veracity, is it true? Is it actually true? It's there's a lot of hucksterism that goes on today. A lot of shilling for different products that is this going to get you amazingly quick results? It's kind of like the notion that boy, if I this is more of a cosmetic thing, but if I use this use this cream, it's going to go deep into my skin. Well, if that were possible, for lotion to go deep into your skin to absorb that kind of moisture, you don't want to take a bath, because by the time you get out of the bath, you're going to weigh an additional 30 or 40 pounds. It just isn't true. It's just not the way things work. And so if something sounds too good or too easy to be true, it probably is. So that's different from things that are more economical and effective. Also, though, when I see things that just don't seem sustainable, there's a lot. It's interesting because there's a lot of products and a lot of programs that are out there, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I did this program for a month. Oh yeah, I remember doing that." Sustainability it's critical in any area of life. And here's something, and I don't want this to sound strange, but I really ask the Lord what his strategy is for me to be as healthy and fit as possible. And I look for that sense of the pleasure of the Lord that says, yes, this feels right. And this is sustainable. There's veracity to it. It actually does produce good results. And also, because I look for that in my life, then I find myself not trying to push what I do on other people. But because I know that I can always say to somebody, take these things before the Lord. And ask the Lord to, give you a sense of conviction about what it is that will help you to be as healthy and fit as possible. God knows you. Obviously you know some things about yourself as well, but God knows you, and he will help to lead and guide you. So what if we're supposed to really combat the world, the flesh, and the devil as believers, then one of the big red flags for me is anything that the world is pushing, that from the world system, because everything in the world system has to do with lust and pride. And everything in the kingdom has to do with love and humility, where we do what we do as out of our love for God, out of our love for others, and out of our love for just our own lives and our sense of purpose in our lives. But again, I don't want to do anything according to the world's fallen system. I want everything I do to be by the Word and the Spirit, but that I recognize that part of the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. It is self-governance. It is the ability to tell your flesh what to do, even when it doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, it's really helpful. I think some of the things that raise yellow and red flags for me, depending on what it is, are new and improved stuff versus old and proven stuff. Anytime somebody is marketing that they have a brand new way to increase bone density, increase the development and retaining of skeletal muscle, lower blood pressure, increase VO2 max and cardiovascular capacity. And it's something that's so different from what's come out in the last 50 to 100 years. I'm automatically like, that's That's interesting to me. Now, variety in terms of if you like paddleboarding versus getting on a rowing machine, that's great. If you like jogging versus being on the Stairmaster, that's great. If you like pushing and pulling a sled instead of doing wall balls, or instead of doing burpee broad jumps or hiking or something like that, that's fine. But it's all basically doing the same stuff. It's when somebody starts getting into these, well, you have to have this piece of equipment. And if you have this piece of equipment, then you will be as fit as the Navy SEALs. Here's kind of the way I think about fitness. I think about fitness the same way as I think about spiritual disciplines. You're never going to get away from the daily study of the scriptures, prayer, journaling, listening, praise, service, confession of sin, forgiveness, the same things that have been keeping Christians spiritually strong for 2,000 years are the same things that are going to keep Christians spiritually strong today. Well, in a similar way, it's like do some pulling, do some pushing, do some things with your legs, breathe heavy, lift some heavy stuff. Let's not overcomplicate it. Another thing that you mentioned, Dad, is anything that is marketed as purely aesthetic motivation. We're going to get you in that size 2, whatever. Oh, we're going to get you 6-pack abs. You know what? Anything about that, I think maybe they will get you in that size 2. Maybe they will get you 6-pack abs. But as PD said, will that be sustainable? And something that I often say is that motive without method is unattainable. You can't attain something if you don't have the right method, but method without the right motive is unsustainable. If you're doing something for the wrong reasons, you won't do it for a long time. And then the last thing, just very quick as a caution, is I try and stay away from world-class athlete style training. What Olympic gymnasts are doing and the top-level CrossFit athletes are doing and what NFL football players are doing and the best Ironman athletes in the world and the best High Rocks athletes in the world are doing, I don't tend to do a lot of those things because I am not a professional athlete. And anybody that knows anything about competitive athletics knows this. Competitive athletics are not safe. When you're pushing your body that hard, you're going to tweak something in the pursuit of being the best in the world. And so I would just encourage people, be cautious when somebody is marketing something to you to make you into an Army Ranger, and maybe be a little bit more open to somebody who's trying to help you be the best you can be in the current season of life you're in. Okay, let's move to the second pillar. Eat well. So move well. That can change in different seasons of your life. Eat well. PD, what's worked for you over the years when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah, well, I am, it's kind of like sometimes I'll say, hey, when you're trying to communicate something clearly to me, speak slowly and use small words. I'm not a genius. I need things to be understandable. And it's one of the things that has caused me to try to teach and preach the Word of God in a very clear and understandable way. I don't want to preach and teach over people's heads. I want to preach and teach to their hearts and their heads so that they know what the truth is and how to apply it in their lives. And so when it comes to nutrition, I think about a few things. I think about, and this is not complicated. I think about how much protein do I need to sustain health? How many grams of protein do I need to sustain health? And the second thing is fiber, because most people don't get enough fiber in their diet. And so I pay attention to that. For women, it's typically 25 grams. For men, it's 30 to 35 grams. And so I just keep track of that. Now I can keep track of it in my head. Water, hydration. How many ounces of water do I need a day? Here's something that I know you would agree with. Nobody ever forgets to eat carbs. Nobody ever forgets to eat carbs. But I think about what kind of carbohydrates, and I try to focus on nutrient-dense carbohydrates and fruits and vegetables. And then I know if I've got a good baseline working with the kind of things that I need to put into my diet, then when I'm eating fun foods, I'm not expecting those things to feed and fuel my body. There's just the fun factor with that. So if I go to dinner at someone's home and they serve a scrumptious dessert, I'm not counting up, how this is going to, to really benefit my health. It's just it's eating the sweet. It's just something that that I enjoy. And the last thing I would say on that is I try to think about, again, sustainability. My wife, Joan, she needs a little bit more variety in her diet than I do. I'm one of those people who I can pretty much eat the same thing every single day and be quite content with it. I try very much to know what is in my food. I have an app on my phone called a Yuka app that enables me to scan barcodes and know what is in food. But my wife and I, we don't do a lot of eating out. If you do, you just have to be careful. You know that. But we do a lot of eating at home where we know exactly what we're eating and what has gone into that. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for simplicity, and I'm looking for balance, and I'm looking for sustainability.
Hopefully, as you're listening, you can recognize, wow, Pastor Dale, this is a man who's he loves the Word of God. He's following Jesus. He's walking in the Spirit. If any of you know Pastor Dale personally, he doesn't talk about this stuff all the time. He's not walking around trying to market his nutritional habits. But here's a man that's trying to walk in the Spirit, and there's room as a Spirit-filled Christian to think about these things as well. To think about your nutrition and your hydration in addition to how you're serving people and how your attitudes are and how you're praising the Lord. So we're trying to give you guys just some examples of people who are trying to follow Jesus and steward their bodies at the same time, so you can go, okay, yeah, I can trust the Lord for the grace to think about these things and know that it's not going to take away from the primary pursuits in my life, which are godliness, which we shared last time from 1 Timothy, that physical exercise is profitable. It's just not profitable in everything like exercising yourself toward godliness. So you can keep your exercise toward godliness as your top priority without losing your physical exercise as well. Okay, a couple quick things that work for me. These might not work for you. These might not work for PD. You'll find that these are very customizable to each person. Something that really helps me with food is to think of food as budgeting. I tend to think of food the same way I think of money. I just think of it as, I think quantity first. How much food am I eating in the course of a day or a week? And I think quality second. Because people who eat too much quality food tend to end up adding a lot of unwanted weight to their life, unwanted weight to their frame over the course of their life. So I tend to think quantity first, quality second. When I say second, I mean a very, very close second. And here's why I say that, because what that helps me to do is not think of food as good or bad. I just think of food as fuel or food as fun. And a lot of times I will temper feasting with fasting. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. That can mean different things for different people, but quantity first, quality second. That way, if I think about it like that, then when I take Lauren out, my wife Lauren, for a special dinner, or we're on vacation and maybe I'm taking the kids to Walmart to buy them each a special Lego set so they can build that on vacation. I'm not going, oh, I feel bad about these fun purchases. It's budgeted. And if it's budgeted, then we can afford it. So I don't know if that helps you. That really helps me. Then when I'm eating, I'm not like, oh, I shouldn't eat that. I'm thinking, okay, is this, if I eat this amount of food over the course of a week, is that going to put me too much in energy surplus? Or is that around the maintenance of what I need to fuel the life that I'm living? Another way to think about it, we talk about this a lot with kids, is to think about food the way you would think about a productive school day. If you go to school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., what does most of your school day need to be? It needs to be work. But some of it has to be fun or you're going to go crazy. Well, I tend to think about food like that. I tend to try and get 80 to 85% of my nutrition from whole and minimally processed food sources, and then around 10 to 20% of it from fun things and things that are enjoyable. Like PD, I tend to prioritize lean forms of protein, and then I fill the rest of my calorie needs with as many whole foods and minimally processed foods as I can, like fruits, veggies, and more. But I prioritize protein. So I think about how much protein do I need in the course of a day? How many calories is that? And then that, whatever I have left over can be filled with things like fruits and veggies and other forms of food. Also, like PD said, and this has worked so well for Lauren and me over the years, is try to cook as much of your own food as possible. That's really worked for us. Okay. Let's talk about some things that, Dad, raise an alarm a little bit when it comes to food and the fitness industry and what it's trying to, and not just the food industry or fitness industry, but the food industry, what they're trying to market to us, the diet industry. What raises your concern when you hear certain things?
Yeah, well, one of the things is, and we talk about this in our family. We talk about this in our church. Don't preach your preferences and your programs. Preach the gospel. So when somebody tries to say, oh, no, this is the way you should eat. This is exactly the way you should eat. This is the plan. This is the, I do keto. And another person says, well, I do plant-based. And somebody says, I really live on a vegetarian diet. Well, I actually live on a vegan diet. I go all the way with it. And it's like, okay, find what works for you. And then if it could potentially work for somebody else and they're asking about it, that's great. But don't preach your preferences and don't preach your programs. Preach the gospel. Another thing that concerns me is when you think that powders and pills and potions are, boy, that's the answer. Do I take some supplements? Yeah, I do. And I use protein powder. I use some vitamins and mineral supplements. But I don't, when I see commercials and they just say, if you will take this supplement, oh, it will add years to your life. And if you will just take this powder or this, no, we need to build our diet around things that we eat that are as natural as possible. And so what we're trying to communicate to you is something that is balanced, something that is sustainable, and something that is as customizable as is needed for your particular needs.
Yeah, I tend to be a moral absolutist and a fitness and nutrition relativist. And what I mean by that is I believe that the truth and the morals of the scriptures are binding upon all people, and that there are things that are true and there are things that are false, there are things that are good and there are things that are evil. But different people have different biochemistry. And there are very healthy people in Japan, and there are very healthy people on the Mediterranean, and there are very healthy people in South America and in North America and in the Hawaiian Islands and various places all over the world who are eating a variety of foods. And so that helps me know a couple things. First of all, people have different needs. And secondly, the human body is really good at adapting. And so we want to encourage you to find what works for you. I tend to be suspicious of highly restricted diets or restrictive diets that aren't accommodating or helping food allergies, autoimmune issues, etc. Where somebody just says, hey, I'm going to take a macronutrient and it's gone from my life. It's like, okay, well, if you're doing that because that helps you with an autoimmune deficiency that you have or a major food allergy and your blood works great and you're feeling good and you're sleeping good and great, that's fantastic. But in general, I tend to be suspicious, like you said, Dad, because oftentimes that's not sustainable. And oftentimes that has people thinking too much about food rather than the right amount about it. PD already said this. Anytime someone is making their personal dietary decisions sound like everyone in the world should do what they're doing, I almost want to go up to that person and go, you know that we have access to the internet, right? You know that there are PhD research scientists all over the world that are researching various ways in which nutrition impacts people's lives, and what you're saying is running in direct contradiction to the randomized human trials that they're doing around the world. So we want to be cautious with people that are overly definitive when the best researchers in the world are not. And then PD already said this as well, miracle fruits. If you're telling me I have to eat something that grows on the other side of the planet or I'm going to substantially suffer in my health, that's going to make me suspicious, because I feel like in some ways that calls into question the goodness of God, that people can't thrive on what grows around them. That then starts to make me feel really like a 21st century American who is importing things from all over the planet, who then no longer can relate to anybody in the scriptural narrative, and very few people throughout church history who didn't have access to special miracle berries that grew on the highest tree of the highest mountain in Tibet. And that if you don't eat it, then you're shaving 20 years off your life. I just think about it like this. If I can't mostly live off what's around me, I'm suspicious of what you're telling me. We can't get avocados in Tennessee, so I do like my avocados. But for the most part, if I can't eat what grows here and I can't eat what lives here in terms of livestock, and you're telling me that I can't live a long and healthy life eating whole and minimally processed food sources in my area, I'm probably going to be suspicious of what you're talking about with me. So anyway, those are some things that I'm thinking about when it comes to food, and I try and think about my nutritional habits. I ask myself the question, and this happens pretty frequently because people want to talk about this. When I'm traveling the world and I'm in South Asia, I'm in Mexico, I'm in the Caribbean islands, I'm in poorer areas, and I'm talking to people. If the way I eat in no way can translate to their life, that's challenging for me. Or if the way I move in no way can translate to their life. And so, again, to just go back to the spiritual disciplines principle, Bible, prayer, confession of sin, forgiveness, going to church, giving, serving. These are timeless principles for spiritual health. Do stuff. We PD and I feel good about stuff that has you moving your arms, moving the front of your body, moving your posterior chain, your back, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, things that have you using your lungs. Like if you're doing that kind of stuff, you're doing great. And then same with food. The basic clean eating principles that have served people for many, many years, we would encourage you to to head in that direction. Hey, we just want to take a minute and thank you again for joining us today. And we'd love for you to subscribe to the Wisdom Words podcast if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support this ministry, you can head to lifereachresources.com or newsongnashville.com and click the Give tab. Your support means so much to us and helps us bring Bible-based content to you and folks all over the world. All right, our third pillar, recover well. And you could add rest to that, rest and recover well. Just trying to keep it concise. Move well, eat well, recover well. PD, what are some things when it comes to recovery, rest and recovery, that have worked for you over the years?
Yeah, one of those things obviously is sleep, and this doesn't always work. We know with our schedules and lives, but anytime that you can get in bed the same time every night, every study indicates how helpful and healthy that is, and we have just a lot of either very inexpensive or free sleep apps that help us to kind of know what kind of quality of sleep. I use that. Pastor Joel uses that, but try to get a good night's sleep. Obviously, 8 to 9 hours is great. I can't remember the last time I slept 9 hours. It usually winds up being 7.5, but that seems to be helpful. But I also find napping to be helpful. I'm not talking about a deep 3-hour nap. Usually for me, it's 30 to 40 minutes, and I'm not making myself wake up. I just tend to wake up. Stretching is a really important thing, and for all of my fellow I hate stretching people who are out there, if I could be kind of the head of that organization, I think I could represent you well. I do not like to stretch. But what I have found is if I don't stretch, it really has a detrimental effect on my recovery. You just can't underestimate how much being in the Word of God and in prayer helps not just your spirit and your mind and your emotions, but it has an impact on your body as well, in helping you to reset and to recover.
Here's one of the tests of recovery and how restful an activity is. An activity is as restful as it readies you to return to work. And so sometimes I think we found restful activities, but they actually put us in some pretty rotten moods. And we think we found a new hobby, and this is really so restful for me. Or we found a new sport, or we found a new video game, or we found a new television show that we're watching, or a new group of people to play games with. But it never seems to make us more ready to return to work with a good attitude. It always just makes us more tired. And so I would encourage everybody listening, find activities that recharge your batteries. Everybody's a little bit different. Yes, some people tend to recharge more on their own in solitary ways. Other people tend to do so more with people, but everybody needs a little bit of both. So some things that work for me, these may not work for you. And like PD said, it can change based on your age. I try to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. And that comes, here's my formula. What time do I need to leave the house? That's always my first question. What time do I need to leave the house in the morning? Then minimum, I am rewinding 2 hours from that point so that I have plenty of time to meet with God in the secret place. I have time to be with my family. I have time to get ready for the day. So what time do I need to leave the house? That's always the first part of the equation. Second part of the equation is rewinding 2 hours back from that, third part of the equation is rewinding 8 hours from that point and making sure I'm in bed 30 minutes before that point. Now, at first you might be like, okay, I hate geometry and calculus. But if you think about it, after a while, it gets pretty easy. It's like, okay, I need to leave the house at 8, so I need to be up at 6, so I need to be in bed at 9:30 so that I'm asleep by 10. And I try and think about that as often as I can. I try and put away the electronics as close to bed as I can, try and keep the house dark. One of the things that really helps my sleep is really strenuous training. Sleep is a recovery mechanism, and one of the reasons people struggle with sleep is they have too much energy, and they don't have really anything to recharge and recover. And one of the things that increases overall sleep quality is strenuous training and lots of lifting heavy and breathing heavy movement. So that really helps me, believe it or not. It's the sleep that helps me recover from the training, but it's actually the training that helps me get longer nights of sleep. Like PD, I try and nap as often as I possibly can. And I don't nap because I'm tired that day. I nap so that I'm not tired the next day. I don't tend to rest because I need to rest. I tend to rest so that I don't ever have to rest. And I know that's a little mind-bending for some people. I try to rest proactively. I don't wait till I hit a brick wall to take time off. I take time off so that I don't ever hit a brick wall. Now, that doesn't always work. Some seasons are busier than others. We get sick, we travel. But as often as possible, I try and rest proactively. I try and keep my caffeine consumption very low. PD talked about counting the ounces of water that he drinks, grams of protein and fiber. I try to track the milligrams of caffeine I'm drinking in a day, and I try and be competitive with myself and drink as little as possible because caffeine can mask fatigue, and it can put at least my body and a lot of friends that I have and people that I know can put you in a fight or flight state for long periods of time. Then before you know it, your blood pressure is really high. So I try and keep my caffeine low. Stretching, especially after exercise when everything's nice and warm. And for me, I especially try and stretch my hamstrings, my glutes, my hip flexors, and my calves because that actually helps with my low back. I'm not always able to observe a 24-hour Sabbath, but as often as possible, I try and do an afternoon to an afternoon when it comes to times of rest. PD, when it comes to rest and recovery, what are some things that you hear and kind of make you go, I don't know if that's the most effective way for somebody to rest and recover?
You know, some things that raise red flags for me, I only need a few hours of sleep a night. When people say that, most often you will find out that they're not in very good shape. We have a president who talks a lot about just only needing a very little sleep. Well, yeah, it's very obvious that he doesn't have a really strong fitness regimen other than playing golf when he does. It just now, if you're that rare person and you can go on just a few hours of sleep, okay, but it does raise a flag to me when somebody says I don't need a lot of sleep. I know enough people who struggle with insomnia and how hard that is on them and how much they wish they could sleep to say, yeah, no, there are just people they just don't need very much sleep. So that raises a flag for me. And just one other thing that that I'll say, and that is that when we, and this kind of goes along with what Pastor Joel was saying, when people are consistently using stimulants to keep them awake and give them energy, that is a big red flag for me. I am and I'm not saying there's anything wrong if you're more than this, I am a 1 big cup of coffee a day person. I love my morning coffee. and it is not decaf. It is caffeinated, and it does have the desired effect, not only the taste of it, but in kind of helping to clear out the morning fog. But I don't continue then throughout the day trying to supplement my water intake with caffeinated beverages. So just a couple things to think about.
I think most people would understand this. This might be new information for you, but caffeine does not provide energy. It masks fatigue. The only thing that provides energy is food, and foods, and without getting too deep into the science of it, because that's not what this podcast, that's not what these episodes are about. But the body metabolizes different forms of fats and sugars to provide energy for the body from what is produced in our cells. And so just be cautious, especially young people out there. I'm very cautious about anything that says energy and it's written on a can. Very cautious about anything that says energy and it's written on a box filled or a bottle filled with pills. And so if someone were to ask me, which people have many, many times, Pastor Joel, what would you say is the number one thing, the first step I can take in improving my health? I would say your sleep. Pay attention to your sleep first and foremost. Start there. And so flags are raised for me anytime somebody is suggesting something that replaces sleep. It's very difficult for me to reconcile. So anything replacing sleep, anything replacing whole foods and minimally processed foods as your nutrition, and anything replacing effective medical care in your recovery, I'm going to be suspicious of. And anything that is overly relational, where you can never be alone, you have to always have all these props and all these people around to be rested and refreshed, that's going to call into question just spiritual maturity. And anything where you can never have anyone around and you have to be alone to rest and refresh, that's going to call into question spiritual maturity. I think a lot of rest and recovery is the result of a mind that is at peace and a heart that is grateful and trusts in God and is thankful for whatever He provides and the people and opportunities that are around us. So, but nothing is going to help us more other than the power of the Holy Spirit than good sleep. Okay, last pillar for this episode, and that's about partnering well. In any season, depending on the adjustments you have to make, you can move. You can move well for the season that you're in, the limitations you have, the injuries, the age, the schedule conflicts, the budgetary limitations. You can eat well, you can recover well, and partner well. So let's talk a little bit about the partnering piece as we start to bring this episode to a close. Petey, over the years, what kinds of partnerships have helped you sustain moving well, eating well, and recovering well?
You know, here at New Song, the word team is very, very important to us. It's very precious to us. It is a non-negotiable. Everything we do as a team, and it's one of the great joys of my life. I never feel like I'm working alone and in isolation, even if I'm preparing a message or writing a chapter in a book or some other writing assignment. It always feels connected to my other teammates. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to write anything. I don't want to do anything that is not the result of a team dynamic. And so you need to put together your health and wellness team. So putting a team together of physicians, but also people who work in the holistic field, I've used chiropractic from the time I was a very young man. Chiropractic actually was introduced to our family when my mom, who was a piano player, couldn't sit at the piano because she was having so many problems with her back. She went under chiropractic care, and it really, really helped her. So chiropractors, big fan of physical therapists. I mean, I love their philosophy. We're happy to see you again if we need to, but we hope we never see you again. And that's very, very refreshing. And so I recently, in the last year or so, visited an allergist just to get a fresh sense of where I was. And come to find out, she said, I know you were diagnosed with allergies years ago, but I'm telling you, some people's immune system is like a boxer. It just keeps punching and punching and punching until you just develop a resistance. And she said, you don't have any allergies. And but I found out what I did have is this swelling inside of my nose that can really cause me problems. She put me on a great program of just cleansing my nasal passages, and it really, really helped me. Again, everybody knows something. Nobody knows everything. Get your team in place, and as you do, and you find people that bring what it is they bring. Another rule I have, and I would imagine it's one that Pastor Joel lives by, and you probably do too. I don't tend to listen to people that are speaking beyond their level of education and expertise. Don't call me crazy, but if I'm going to listen to somebody, I'm going to listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about because they've put the time in to get the education they need, and they've had enough experience to be able to speak to that. I don't use a fitness trainer anymore, but for years I worked out with someone who helped me tremendously. He told me at 48 years of age, he said, I can get you stronger than you've ever been in your entire life. And I'm like, how are you going to do that? And he said, we're going to do it by increasing the amount of weight that you lift and the amount of reps that you do. So we're going to both work strength and endurance. And doggone it, if that didn't happen. And so I have him, even though we don't work out together anymore, he's in my head every day. And he's part of my team. And I think about what he has said to me so often. So assemble your wellness team, and remember, everybody knows something. Nobody knows everything.
You know, one of the first people that was really on my wellness team, if not the first person, is my dad. You know, so a huge reason to this day why I share in these values is because they were modeled for me. And it's pretty plain in a lot of research and in a lot of literature that kids tend to do what their parents do. Kids tend to grow up holding to the values that their parents instill in them. And so having a dad that, as always, albeit imperfectly, modeled attention to movement and nutrition and rest, it really helped me. My dad never shoved this stuff down our throats as kids. We never talked about weight. We never talked about the scale. We never talked about good food or bad food. We talked about, food that's healthy and it's going to help us to be strong. But if anybody knows my dad, and it's greatly amplified since he became a grandfather, my dad loves giving people treats. He loves desserts and candies and fun things, and he's a big celebration guy who along with my mom wants birthdays and Christmas and 4th of July and New Year's to be special for people. And so I just want to encourage all the parents out there, we don't need to be Navy SEALs for our kids, but if we show them an attention to stewarding our bodies in a balanced way, there's a really good chance they'll adopt that as they get older. So first person that was on my team was really my dad. A couple other things that have worked for me is I get a yearly physical, and I get my blood work done at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, with a primary care physician. And my primary care physician, it was important to me. Again, I'm talking about me. So this might be different for you, but it was important to me that my primary care physician was in good physical shape. And so when I was looking for a new one, and I sat down and met with him, and it could be a male or a female, doesn't matter to me, but I needed it to be somebody who shared my values for moving well and eating well and recovering well. And they don't need to do it perfectly. I hope you can hear in Pastor Dale and my tone, we're not after perfection. We're just after progress and making adjustments throughout your life to be the best that you can be in each season of your life, which means something different when you're 38 than when you're 18, or when you're 68 than when you're 48. And so that was important to me, to have a primary care physician that valued health. I do monthly chiropractic care. I have a degenerated disc in between my L4 and my L5, and it is from sports when I was younger. Unlike my dad, who is cautious and thinks things through, I'm an absolute competitive killer when it comes to sports. And I put my body on the line when I was little. And as a teenager, and I'm still suffering from some of those things, but I've seen a lot of progress in chiropractic care and spinal decompression. I know not everybody has or does, but I have. I have no back pain anymore. I almost forget most of the time that there's anything going on there. Other things that have worked for me is occasional visits to specialists. Specialists can be really helpful. Now, sometimes they can be unhelpful because they want to put you through 95,000 tests that cost another, second mortgage. But specialists like allergists have been very helpful to me. Orthopedic surgeons. I've got a very, very good friend in the city who's an orthopedic surgeon who has helped me tremendously. PD and I are huge fans of physical therapists. We're huge physical therapist fans because their lotion is motion and their medicine is movement, and their whole goal is to get you out as quickly as possible and never see you again, like PD said. But even like ear, nose, and throat specialists, etc., occasional visits to those kinds of people can really yield some helpful ways to either recover from an issue or manage an issue in a very sustainable way. Talking to people who know what they're talking about and have good results in their life. I don't tend to take fitness advice. I don't tend to take nutrition advice, and I don't tend to take recovery advice from people who aren't bearing good fruit. And then this is just one last one. I have a friend named Ashton Tate, and he and I send each other voice texts almost 365 days a year. And it's just, hey, this is what I ate yesterday, this is what I'm eating today, and this is how I'm going to move. And it's just, there's an excitement to share what you did with somebody. And there's also, there's no competition in it. He has a different flow than I have. He's got different ways of doing things, different patterns that work for him. And he eats a little bit differently than I do, rests and recovers a little bit differently than I do. But there's something very mutually stimulating about just having somebody that you're talking to on a daily basis. So something that has worked for me is finding people who share my values for health and doing things with them. Now, those aren't the only people I hang out with, but I want to play pickleball with people who love pickleball. I want to lift weights with people who love to lift weights. I want to cook and meal plan with people who love to cook and meal plan. And so those are some things that have worked for me. PD, anything just when it comes to building your team that raise some flags for you and you tend to be a little suspicious of?
Yeah, I think that at the church here we talk about ministry symmetry. That isn't, we're a prayer church. Oh, we're a missions church. They said of Jesus, behold, he does all things well. So we're looking for ministry symmetry. And I think in our lives, symmetry is a very, very key word. If you're doing strength resistance training, you're looking to work all your muscle groups. Well, the reason I have the medical doctor that I do is that he is not critical of chiropractors. He's not critical of holistic means and practices. He's not critical of a physical therapist and has referred me at various times. There have been chiropractors that I have moved on from because they overestimate what it is that they are able to do for you. So I'm looking for people who know the limitations of the particular discipline that they are practicing in helping people. So anytime you say, yeah, you don't need to go to this, you don't need, I'm suspicious of that. Anything that is not sustainable. I don't like fads. They come and they go, and they are by nature something that is temporary and something that will not help you over the long haul. Which comes back to that. Don't mind variety, but I'm looking for veracity. I'm looking for what's really true and what really is proven. And so anything that's kind of here and gone, I'm not interested in. And I think it's helpful for you to hear from a 38-year-old and a 68-year-old. What I'm looking for is the ability to be able to be strong and be alert and be able to move and get this 68-year-old brain to wherever the Lord wants to take it in order to help as many people as possible.
Some things that raise flags for me, and Petey mentioned it a bit, is medical doctors who won't partner with holistic physicians, and holistic physicians or osteopaths that won't partner with MDs. That's always why. Why won't you cooperate? Because there are some things that medical doctors are amazing at, and that diagnostic medicine is amazing at, and surgeons, and there are some things that osteopathic and holistic practitioners, ways in which they view the body as a whole and how to manipulate exercise, nutrition, rest and recovery for total wellness, that when you combine those two things, it's amazing. I'm also suspicious of a doctor that is very, very quick to get me on more medication without first trying non-medication means that don't include medication. Now, there are some things that can't be treated without medication. I understand that. But when a doctor is too quick to put me on another pill without examining maybe some dietary changes, some lifestyle changes that can be made to reduce a particular symptom or increase a particular bit of recovery, I can be suspicious of that. I'm also suspicious of somebody who says, as we mentioned this earlier, who says all my ills can be solved if I take this, if I breathe in a particular essential oil, or I start taking turmeric pills, that now every single problem in my body is going to go away. I'm always suspicious of people who are overly narrow. And I'm looking for those who encourage a team approach in the pursuit of symmetry and health. I'm very suspicious of people also who listen to too many opinions and then they get paralysis by analysis. And there's a simplicity to moving, there's a simplicity to eating, and there's a simplicity to recovering that I'm looking for. And some people, they're listening to too many podcasts, they're reading too many articles, and so they're overly worried about certain things and not concerned about other things. I would rather find a team of 5 people who are good people, they know what they're talking about, and stick with that group over a lifetime than have 500 people telling me what to do and not ever knowing what to do next. And then the last thing is I'm always suspicious of practices of health that are not possible to sustain without a particular person or program, where I can't do something if you're not there all the time, or I can't achieve this if I'm not doing your program forever. If I can't do something day to day, mostly on my own, I'm probably not going to get involved. And when I'm trying to help somebody with health, it's the same thing I'm trying to do with Bible study. I want to equip somebody for Bible study, for prayer, for forgiveness, for preaching the gospel, for making disciples, where they don't need to call me every single 5 seconds or every 5 seconds. They're equipped. So I'm looking for practitioners that are looking to equip me for the work of health, in the same way that I, as an equipper of the saints, am trying to equip saints for the work of ministry, not make them so dependent on me where they need me every moment of every day. So I hope that makes sense. Well, we could go on and on and on about these 4 pillars. Obviously, there are so many things we could say about moving well, eating well, recovering well, partnering well. But the least you need to know to get started is the most you need to know to get started. Petey and I just wanted to share some things that have worked for us, that hopefully inspire you in some things, help you to pray and ask the Lord how in this season of time, whatever season you're in, teenager, young adult, someone who's married with children or is in an older stage of life, wherever you're at, there's 1,000 categories. We hope this moves you toward prayer. We hope this moves you toward seeking the multitude of wise counsel, people who know what they're talking about. And we hope in certain ways this gives you permission to take your health seriously because we need you. We hope this gives you permission and inspiration to go, my body and my mind and my soul and my spirit are worth taking care of because God has great plans for me, and the people in my life need me for as long as the Lord will have me here, either until he calls me home or he returns. We hope this has been helpful for you today, gives you some wisdom to consider. On our next episode, we're going to hear stories from men and women of different ages and in different stages of life. You're not going to want to miss these practical examples of living healthy as a Christian. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our new episodes. If you'd like to support our ministry, head to lifereachresources.com or newsongnashville.com and click the Give tab to help us continue to bring Bible-based content to you and others around the world. Join us next time here on the Wisdom Words Podcast.